Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm coming at you with a really fun and exciting video, so stay tuned. So the grand finals have just concluded, the MVP's been announced, but I'll be covering that stuff in a different video. Today I've got something different for you in this one. As this season has wrapped up, we have just finished the last ever Overwatch League season that will be played on Overwatch 1 because they've announced that the next season is going to be played on Overwatch 2. So in this video, I'm going to be covering what we learned in the Overwatch League Grand Finals halftime about Overwatch 2. So in the halftime show, we saw an exhibition game between a few pros. It was players from the LA Gladiators and the Washington Justice going head to head on Overwatch 2. We were also told about two reworks that are going to be happening going into Overwatch 2, those being Bastion and Sombra, so I'm going to be covering all that in this video. Stay tuned and you'll know everything you need to know about Overwatch 2 that we learned this weekend. So first of all, I'll cover the hero reworks that we learnt about. The first one being Bastion. So a few of the main notable obvious things regarding abilities that Bastion has is that he no longer has his self-repair. So obviously he's going to need much more support from his teammates, but also you'll see there's some other abilities that actually make him more of an individual character. Replacing this, he's now got an alternate fire, which is called a tactical grenade. He shoots out a big ball, which bounces off walls and stuff and explodes when it hits people. So that's pretty cool. I think this is just aiming to try and make Bastion more fun by giving him more variety in what he can do in terms of damaging stuff, which I think is a good direction to go with a hero who previously just sits still and laser down people. So with primary fire, there's quite big changes as well. Now it shoots at 50% the speed it previously would have. So it's obviously much more slow paced, more hit scanny. It feels more like McCree as opposed to Soldier. But in place of this slow fire rate, the weapon spread has been reduced to 0. So obviously when you're using Bastion's primary fire, you're going to want to be more careful with your shots. It feels like they are trying to make him fill that role that he was initially meant to in a hit scan role, making him able to replace things like a McCree or an Ashe, which previously he wouldn't have been able to do. So now for the most exciting changes, we'll start with the Sentry form changes. So now, the main thing being, when you're in Sentry form, you're able to move about. This sounds really, really scary, I know, but think previously how useless Bastion was, purely because of the fact he was sitting still. They're definitely trying to get rid of that because that was most obviously his biggest weakness. This is going to now be on a cooldown, like most other abilities are, to make sure you're just not constantly in that form, but they did mention that when you're actually in the Sentry form, you can be in it for a very long time, so I don't think a cooldown will actually do a whole lot. Also, when he's moving about, he moves a lot slower, so it's not too broken. It's not like you can just go into Sentry form and then sprint across the map, killing everyone, jumping into someone's backline somehow, and lasering them down. Alright, now for the ultimate, because there's massive changes here. Basically, instead of becoming a tank, he becomes a big, fat, chunky artillery unit. When you're in this form, you can send down 3 strikes, which look quite similar to Doomfist's ultimate and operate in a similar way. Each strike will have the potential to do 600 damage. That is 1800 damage if you land all 3 strikes directly. This is because each projectile has an impact damage of 300 and an explosion damage of 300 as well. Now, it operates like any other projectile, so D.Va can eat it, or even Genji can deflect these back at the Bastion. So you've got to be careful when you're using it that, I mean, if you send it into a grab, it might be OP, but Genji just whips his sword out and you're dead. When I think about why they made these changes, I think it's largely because of the 5v5 change for Overwatch 2. The increased mobility could have the aim to make Bastion more of an individual hero, at least a hero who can survive alone. So that in 5v5, it's more of a split up game where you can do stuff alone. This would fix the problem that I see of 5v5 being fully pick based. Like, the enemy gets a pick on your team and you're kind of screwed for the team fight. Having heroes able to fend for themselves and survive alone more would make that less of an impact. That first pick, make it less of a determining factor, because you're able to just pop off even if you're one man down. So that's Bastion done. Now we'll jump to the other side of the spectrum where Bastion was being reworked because literally nobody played him. There was not really a place for him in the game. Now we're going to talk about Sombra, who's been reworked for probably the opposite reason. She's too good. She's played too much of the time and she's too influential in a meta. So they say that the aim of Sombra's changes is to just reduce CC in the game overall, and Sombra's whole kit basically depends on crowd control. Overall, overall, they're making Sombra have more potential damage, have the ability to do more damage than she currently does, while having worse abilities and probably worse team play overall, which fits with the theme of Bastion that I stated previously, where they're reducing team play to try and be more individual. Obviously, when we see it on the Overwatch League, they're going to be playing as a team because that's how you're going to find the most success, but making sure that if you're one player down, you're still able to come back in the fight and it's not just a game of the picks. So I'll start off with the most obvious and notable part of Sombra's pick, her hack. Now, the cooldown of this hack has been reduced significantly, down from 8 seconds to 3 seconds. And the duration of the hack itself has been increased to 8 seconds. If this was where the changes stopped, Sombra would be absolutely busted, no doubt about it, but there's some influential changes coming up with her hack ability right now. So, for the first 1 second of the hack, it will do what a hack previously did. You won't be able to use your abilities for the first second of the hack, but that's only 1 second. For the rest of the time, you'll be able to see the hacked enemy through walls. I actually really like this change because it still gives Sombra the ability to cancel significant ultimates, for example, or the example they gave, counter a barraging Pharah, because it still does that initial hack. But it still allows hack targets to survive alone, especially if there's peel from the team, whereas in the past you might get hack onto a Zen and they'd just be dead because they wouldn't be able to get their Discord on you. But now that you just hack them and you're not as able to take out a backline so easily, it's more so for, I'd say, ultimate and ability cancelling. Now also another notable change, while you're in your invis mode, you can still hack people without having to come out of cloak. You will be visible briefly while you're invis, while you're hacking. But I guess it just makes Sombra more of a smooth character to play, thinking you can be invis, hack someone if you see them ulting, not having to mess up all your cooldowns. Now also, what kind of makes her hack a bit better, because currently is quite weak, is that her passive ability means that hacked enemies receive 50% more damage from Sombra. This kind of allows Sombra to still be kind of like an assassin, as she previously was, but not in such a powerful way. Basically, if you can aim, you're probably going to find a lot of success on Sombra because you get the hack and then you should be able to take out someone from the backline, for example, or if you're focusing down a tank, you'll be able to take them out, deal 50% more damage yourself while your team's still spamming on top of them. But now her ultimate, the EMP. Similar to Sigma's ultimate, it deals a chunk of damage to everyone EMP'd by it, but it works differently because it deals 40% of the opponent's current HP, not total HP, current HP, whereas Sigma is half of their total HP. As well as this though, it also kind of does the manual hack ability onto everyone within it, so it does the 1 second of no abilities, and then they're seen through walls, and also Sombra can deal 50% more damage to them while they're still hacked. So kind of an overall note for Sombra, you're still going to need support for your backline if it's hacked, but trying to aid with this 5v5 thing again, you won't need as much peel because you're only hacked for 1 second with that initial part of the hack, I mean, if Sombra tries to dive your backline. So you won't need as much peel, which is really useful because you're able to actually have a front line in 5v5 instead of your only tank having to jump back and save the honor or something. So I think both these reworks kind of have two elements to them. They've both been done because the heroes themselves currently are kind of busted, Bastion being too bad and Sombra being too good, but also to try and fit in with that 5v5 gameplay. Sombra would have been way too broken if she stayed the previous way for 5v5 because, I mean, EMP, you'd be screwed, hack, you'd be screwed, and they're trying to really minimize the damage that a single pick can do when you've only got 5 players on the team. I've got a couple of tweets here from some pro players that we could take a look at after they played the game, and we'll see what their opinions of it were. I could only find 2 people that actually said anything, so the first one is from Skewed from the LA Gladiators. Now here's his tweet. It's in Korean, so you might have a difficult time reading that. I don't know Korean, I just Google translated it. So what he says here is, it felt like playing a new game. It was fun at first, but the more I played, the bigger the empty space for one tank became. I didn't enjoy it as much as I expected. I've been playing 6v6 for several years, so doing 5v5 right now will of course only see the downsides. It's hard to find as much fun as 6v6 right now, but it seems to get better as time goes on. So that's a pretty scary thought from Skewed actually, that 5v5 might be going in a bad direction. He notes that having one tank does definitely leave a void there in the team, but I guess maybe as players learn more about the game, they'll be able to negate that. So that's Skewed from the LA Gladiators. So now here we've got another tweet from Space from the LA Gladiators, and he says, Bastion calling in COD's kill streak, and Sombra the server admin playing God mode. Overwatch 2 looking different. Obviously a jokey tweet there, but he's just saying basically it's not the same game, so we can assume that not the same good players are going to be good at this game. Hopefully in the Overwatch League that means we'll see a lot more variety, but with the way they're operating, I'd be a bit scared about that. I've said previous times in videos that I think them limiting early access Overwatch 2 to the current pool of Overwatch League players is a mistake for them. You can check out some of my other videos if you want to hear my opinions on that, but I mean, I'd somewhat say this actually reinforces that idea, saying that it's a new game, it's very different, but for some reason they're still limiting it to the same people. Scary thought. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.